A 21-year-old girl is chased into her own home by her ex-boyfriend. The motion sensor light turns on. She screams and runs for her life. She tries to hide in the bathroom, but the attacker forces his way inside. Multiple gunshots echo through the house. Neighbors are frozen in shock as the killer flees calmly across state lines. A young woman's fresh start turns into a terrifying execution-style revenge killing. He shows no remorse in court, while her mother breaks down in anger and grief. This is not a movie, not a script, not a fictional scenario. This is a real American tragedy that left a family shattered and a community demanding justice. So watch this story till the very end, because the truth behind this case will shock you and stay in your mind for a long time. And before we start, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and comment below which city you are watching from. Now let's begin the full story of She Ran for Her Life. The tragic story of Dashanna Donovan in one continuous narrative. Dashanna Donovan was only 21, a young American woman with dreams that stretched further than her circumstances and a determination to rewrite her life on her own terms. And like so many girls her age, she once fell in love with someone who showed charm and affection, a young man named Deavrian Ray. Older than her and confident in ways that seemed attractive at first, back when love felt simple, fun, and full of thrilling possibilities. But as months passed, the cracks began to form, small signs of possessiveness, controlling behavior, jealousy, and anger that would eventually grow into something dangerous. And eventually Dashanna realized that love had shifted into fear, that laughter had turned into anxiety, and that the person she once cared for was becoming a threat to her safety. So she made a choice many victims struggle to make. She left. She packed bag after bag, said goodbye to the home she once shared in South Carolina, and moved more than 600 miles away to Queens, New York, living with her aunt and starting fresh at a local McDonald's, where she picked up overnight shifts, saved money, and tried to build the kind of American dream that millions chase every day, a dream built on independence, peace, and the right to breathe without fear. And for a moment it seemed like the past was finally behind her. Her new neighborhood had families, stores, busy streets, and subway stations that gave her a sense of anonymity and safety. And though the hours were long, and the pay wasn't amazing, she was proud of herself for leaving, for starting over, for fighting for her own happiness. But trauma doesn't fade quickly. And even though she smiled at work and joked with her coworkers, at night she sometimes wondered if Ray would ever truly let go, not knowing that at that same time, in another state, he was spiraling into obsession and anger, refusing to accept that the relationship was over, nursing grudges, replaying arguments in his mind, and convincing himself that if he could not have her, no one would. Ray began tracking her movements, finding her address, and planning a trip. This was not a random act of violence, but a calculated revenge mission, fueled by wounded pride and rage. And on a September evening he boarded transportation from Virginia to New York with a single purpose: to confront Dashanna on his terms, not hers. Carrying a firearm and a mindset that had already crossed every moral boundary, that night Dashanna finished her overnight shift, walked home, sat outside in the backyard talking on the phone, unaware that Ray was already in her neighborhood, already watching, already preparing to strike. And at around 9 p.m. the security light flicked on, illuminating Ray's figure in the backyard. And Dashanna's instincts took over as she screamed and ran for her life, sprinting toward the only place she believed she was safe, the inside of her aunt's home, her hands fumbling with the door. Rushing inside toward the bathroom, a space that must have felt like the last possible shield between her and death. But Ray chased her, pushing through the house, cornering her, raising his weapon, and in a matter of seconds, pulling the trigger repeatedly, execution style, aiming at her head and torso as she collapsed in the doorway, bleeding, terrified, and alone except for the distant sounds of neighbors calling 911. And then Ray fled, leaving through the same path he came, disappearing into the night while Dashanna's aunt discovered a scene no family member should ever witness, screaming for help as paramedics arrived but too late to save her. And so a bright, ambitious 21-year-old woman's life ended on a bathroom floor because someone believed that love was ownership and rejection was a crime. And as police processed the scene and investigators pulled security footage, Ray was already heading south, crossing state lines as if nothing had happened, showing no remorse, no hesitation, and no fear of consequences. Until nearly a month later, he was finally arrested in South Carolina, flashing no regret, and extradited to New York, where he appeared in court, handcuffed, head held high, and even nodding twice at Dashanna's mother, a gesture that burned like acid in her heart as she later told reporters that her blood boiled because he showed no remorse. And in that moment the courtroom wasn't just a place of law, it became a battlefield of grief, pain, and unanswered questions. And this is where the revenge element of the story twists, because Dashanna's mother did not seek violent retaliation, but she sought a deeper kind of revenge, justice through the legal system, accountability through court, and a lifetime sentence to ensure that no other woman would meet the same fate at his hands. And while many American stories of revenge end in more violence, this one became a story of resilience, advocacy, and prevention, sparking conversations about domestic violence, stalking, and how often young women are cornered by partners who refuse to let go. Especially in a country where firearms are accessible, law enforcement is overwhelmed, and victims sometimes slip through the cracks. As news spread across the United States, communities reacted with shock and sorrow, especially because Dashanna had done what society tells victims to do: leave, move away, start over. Yet even that wasn't enough against a man determined to end her life, and so activists, shelters, counselors, and legal advocates began using her story as an example of why emotional abuse, stalking, and possessive behavior must be treated seriously, not as harmless jealousy but as early warning signs of lethal control. And through this case, the revenge wasn't only Ray's brutal act of murdering her, but society's revenge against the silence that often protects abusers. As people demanded stronger protective laws, faster intervention, and more resources for women fleeing violent partners. Because every year in the United States thousands of women are killed by someone who once claimed to love them, making intimate partner violence one of the most deadly patterns affecting young women today. And though this story ends with tragedy, it also ends with a legacy of awareness, as Dashanna's short life became a symbol for others who are trying to escape, reminding viewers that true love never hunts, never stalks, never kills, and that the most terrifying revenge is the one carried out by someone who feels entitled to your life. In this entire narrative, the emotional weight lies not only in the crime but in the aftermath, the funerals, the court hearings, the press interviews, the silent bedrooms that once held laughter, the empty seats at dinner tables, the mothers waking up at 3 a.m. wondering how everything went wrong, the co-workers who stare at Dashanna's old locker, and the communities that wonder if anything could have saved her. And for those listening to this story, for those who stayed till the end, remember this: if someone makes you feel afraid, controlled, or watched, don't stay silent. Don't wait for the situation to calm down, because sometimes the most dangerous moment is when you finally decide to leave. And as we close this narrative, we honor her memory, we acknowledge her courage, and we promise to keep telling stories like this so victims know they aren't alone. Now tell us in the comments which city you're watching from, and if you want more true American revenge and emotional stories, like the video, subscribe, and stay safe, because real life isn't always fairy tales, sometimes it's survival.